Welcome to Journaling with Nature, the podcast for those who want to turn curiosity into wonder, a pencil sketch into a rabbit hole of discovery, a moment of stillness into a life full of joy. I'm your host, Bethan Burton. Let's open the pages of our nature journals and explore this world together. Hello, this is episode 90. Almost 90 conversations with nature journalers. Just a handful of those episodes were me talking to myself. But it makes me so humbled to have had all these conversations with people from different places around the world. Each story has been interesting and unique. I want to thank you for being part of this journey, for listening, for tuning in each week, for giving your feedback, and especially a big thank you to Patreon supporters. Your support means that I can keep going with this project, and I deeply appreciate that. If you haven't already, I'd love to have you join me on Patreon. You can help support the show for as little as $1 per month. You can find the Patreon link in the show notes of each episode. If you'd like to support the show in a different way, you can give the podcast 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. This helps new listeners find the show and ultimately to learn about nature journaling. So today's guest is fellow Australian Kim Lapere. Kim is an artist, scientist and educator who also has a YouTube channel where she shares videos about nature journaling and the Australian natural environment. Kim's background in education helps her focus on creating content that's useful, informative and engaging, helping viewers to get past any roadblocks and connect deeply with nature. In our conversation, we spoke about Kim's focus on Australian flora and fauna in her videos, how art challenges help her commit to a daily art habit, and Kim's experience nature journaling the world's smiliest mammal. Let's listen. Kim, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
No worries, Bethan. Thanks so much for inviting me.
I'm really excited to chat with you today, and as you know, I always start with one particular question, and that is about nature experiences as a child. And I wonder if you've had nature in your life from the beginning.
Yes and no. I'm a child from an expat family, so we used to do a lot of traveling all around the world. And even though we lived in cities, there was always nature around us, and we would go to the parks. And when I moved to Sydney, I remember playing in the bush. So yeah, I've always grown up in and around nature, but not wild nature. I think we've gone camping once or twice, but yeah, still enough that I felt like I was in touch with nature.
Mm-mm. And tell me about creativity. Has that been part of your life as well from the beginning?
Yeah, it has. And so I've been drawing since I was a kid, and I remember visiting my family in Belgium and being given this little blank book called a poesy. And I was told, like, you have to get everybody you know to draw a picture in it before you go. And so, of course, asking all my family, here, draw one page, this is your page. And so that, I think, might have been the start of, I want to keep like a book with my drawings in it too and do this for my friends. And even through high school, I kept up just as a fun hobby. I liked to draw with my friends. So we would draw Harry Potter and Pokemon and then just fantasy characters. And then I got into DeviantArt online, and I think that's sort of where I learned to improve my skills a little bit. And even as an adult now, I kept up just trying to, as a way of disconnecting or just having a bit of quiet time. Yeah.
I love this idea of the poesy. Do you still have it? It must be an amazing keepsake.
I think I do have it somewhere. I'm not sure where, but I don't think I've thrown it out. And it's strange. It's got Tweety from Looney Tunes on the front cover. So I still remember what it looks like. And so I've got all my family from Belgium who drew in it. And then when I left Sydney, all my friends there also did a page. So yeah, I have to go looking for it now.
Yeah, what a beautiful thing. I love that idea of everybody contributing to one special keepsake.
Yeah, and I think it tells you a lot about the person. Like my two
Yeah.
granddads, um, I never would have thought of my family as being very artistic, but my one granddad liked to paint a lot, and he was, I'd say, probably more classic. And then the other granddad was an architect, and his drawings very precise and with colored pencil,
Mm.
and it was just nice to see the different styles. Yeah.
So you've got creativity in your genes.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize it until I was thinking about this last year when I was setting up my website. Like, you know what? I have actually got artistic people all around me. Yeah.
Yeah, so interesting. So I'd love to talk about your story and how you got from there to where you are now. So you have a history of science and teaching, and you studied chemistry at university. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. So I got into chemistry, did an undergraduate and a postgraduate. And then when I did my first postdoctorate, I moved to Sydney. And from there, I became a lecturer and also went into a more education focused role. So I, while I was lecturing, I also got a graduate certificate in higher education. And I loved the teaching side of it. I really got into
Mm.
that. Um, yeah.
So this idea of conveying something that you're interested in and passionate about has come with you now into your new role. Um, First, I'd love to talk about nature journaling and how you came to nature journaling.
Yeah. So as I said before, my art has sort of been with me the whole time. And when I was lecturing, it became a little bit stressful. At the start, it was good, but we were on this big project, and it just became more and more overwhelming in a way. And so the art became a release for me to disconnect from my work, and I tried to develop a daily drawing habit, and with that, I wanted to improve my drawing skills. So I found out about the natural history illustration course, and I signed up for that. I paid to do a certificate in that, which wasn't much, but enough so that when it came around, I felt I'm going to do this.
Committed.
Yeah, even though it was April 2020, the start of the pandemic, and I
Oh,
was
wow.
crazy busy because the university had flipped to teaching online. So, in a way, it was good because it was something that I could disconnect from my work from and keep me focused. And I love the course. I highly recommend it.
So this is through Newcastle University?
Yeah, so it was online. Yeah.
Mhm.
And um, from there, I also was trying to, because of the pandemic again, go outside more, or like
Mm.
because of the lockdowns, you just felt that loss of connection with being outside and nature. And through the course, wanting to draw nature. So I found Jack Laws's book and just immediately fell in love. I think it's one of my favorite books now. So that's how I found nature journaling. Yeah. And then I just started Googling and searching. I found your International Nature Journaling Week website and people on YouTube. Yeah.
That's so good, and so since then, you've really thrown yourself into it. You've, left that previous job and thrown yourself into nature journaling and brought this idea of teaching others because you've started a YouTube channel called Kim's Nature Journaling Adventures. Talk to me about this new phase in your work life.
Yeah. So I decided that I wanted to focus on helping people connect with nature and teaching them about this amazing tool that I discovered of just having a sketchbook with you when you go out in nature. So I wanted to create videos that did this educational side of nature journaling and maybe also a little bit of nature stewardship, but also sharing the amazing nature we have here in Australia. Because I feel like there's a lot of um, nature journaling, especially from the US. But in Australia, I couldn't really find very much. So I wanted to get into that little niche area and share that in particular.
I really love that you have that focus. I mean, this country is so vast, so unique, and so incredibly beautiful, and that you are bringing not only the nature journaling to your community, but this Australian specific focus really makes me happy to see that.
Yes, I'm so excited to just go out and explore because to me it's all very new. Even though I have the scientist background and I'm self-taught in art, I'm not really how would you say a professional in this, right? But I think that's good because I'm at that beginner level. I can share at that beginner level as well and hopefully help others along their journey too.
Yeah, I see real value in that when people are learning and iterating in public, and learners are coming along with you for your own learning journey. I think that's really accessible, and I think that's a really positive place to be teaching from.
Yes, exactly. And just from that learning theory, that's the best way to come and approach teaching and learning. So, yeah, I try to make sure that I use the best practices to help educate others. And I want to try and keep it interactive too, even though YouTube is a little bit of a one way stream. I really do hope that my viewers will interact and join me in the comments. And one day I'd like to, for example, also have scientific experts join me in the video and I can sort of have a bit of a discussion with them about whatever I'm nature journaling. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. I love your videos. I think they're incredibly accessible. I find them very relaxing to watch. You draw me in, you show really interesting things about the nature where you are. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what you see when you go outside in Perth, Western Australia.
Yeah, so right now it's starting to become autumn, so it's getting a little bit more cold and wet, and the leaves are. We do actually have like some trees here that are deciduous, so outside my window we've got leaves that are dying. But so in general, I live on the coast, and WA has got this huge long coastline, beautiful long white sandy beaches, and I'm also really lucky in that I'm on the other side of me is a an inlet, an estuary. So I've got water on both sides, but I'm right on the border of bushland. I'm actually living an hour south of Perth, 100 kilometers south of Perth, and but even if I was in inner Perth, there's still lots of green space, open space, and yeah, it's interesting though because I say this about Perth, but WA is such a huge state, and there's such
Mm,
a variety of different geographical landforms and trees and bush types and so on. Yeah.
mm. I I haven't been to Perth, but I very much wanna go there, and I love that, you're so close to the coast, and you have the good fortune to be, able to access the world's cutest mammal, which is the quokka.
Yes.
Can you tell the listeners about quokkas?
All right. So it's a little marsupial. It's like a wallaby, which is a kind of short kangaroo. And it's got like this permanent smile on its face. So you have to get down quite low to be able to get your selfie with it. But this is what celebs will come from all over the world to visit the quokka and take a selfie with it. They are
Yeah,
just such
they're famous.
yeah, they are. They're such cute little cherub faces, and yeah, they're quite friendly. They live on this little island called Rottnest Island, just off the coast of Perth, that I visited. So I've made a video where I nature journal them, and they also live a little bit in the southwest. On the island, they're fine, but on the mainland, they're actually endangered.
They are so cute. That you if you type into Google quokka selfie, you'll see the smiling quokka, and I do wanna say, taking a selfie with a quokka, you need to be very respectful. I think this can be, a problem, people, not respecting the quokka and taking too many selfies or getting too close or something, but,
Yes.
they are incredibly cute.
Yeah, they you're not supposed to touch them, and so you're allowed to take photos of them, but you're not supposed to feed them either. I do recall um, one incident where this woman it was like in the middle of town on the island, and this baby quokka, it was probably no bigger than my hand, had just appeared,
Oh,
and of course because we were like near the outdoor pub area, lots of people, and this thing
uh
was just swamped I mean, I don't even know if they picked it up and moved it to a better position. I was just like, oh no, I can't
Mm.
watch this. So yeah,
Oh, the perils of being too cute.
yes.
Oh dear. So I'd love to talk to you about the Perth Nature Journal Club. So you've started this club, and I wonder if you can explain your experience and how it's going and what it's been like to start your own club.
Yeah, so I started it last year, and what I wanted it to be was a place, a, like a regular catch up for people to learn and also just do some nature journaling together. A little bit like what I think urban sketching catch ups are. I've never actually joined one, but that's the impression I've got from it.
Mm.
So a place for people to come together, just spend some time in nature, draw, learn from each other, and yeah, I hope that it. Um, we've had a few people get involved, but it's still early days, still growing. I think will also help when I am living in Perth itself. So
Mm.
I can maybe do a few more workshops and get more involved in that face to face side of the club, which is why I created it. So it's not just me online on YouTube, but also face to face with other people.
Yeah, it's a totally different experience, isn't it? Journaling alone and journaling with others, and I think both are so valuable and so wonderful. But it's a really different experience. I find with the Brisbane Nature Journal Club, I do a lot more chatting than journaling.
Yes, I've
but
noticed that too.
it's it's lovely to be around people who love the same things and get excited and curious about things around them. And yeah, I'm sure these things do start small, and that's absolutely perfect. And you are bringing something new to your area, because this is not something that maybe a lot of people know about over there. But this
Yeah,
little seed that you're planting is beautiful.
yeah, and I'm excited about to see how it will grow and where it will take us. Yeah.
I'd love to hear about the process of filming your YouTube videos and getting the right angles, setting up the camera and all that. Does it distract you from the moment and from your own observations and curiosity, or are you able to flip into that when you pick up your nature journal?
Yeah, so definitely you've got that sense of being watched when you set it up, and I also try and think about what would the viewer want to see, and so sometimes I'm quite uncomfortable in order so that and viewer can see, but I try and just keep it fun, and I don't mind like trying new different ways of showing you stuff, but otherwise, even though there is that sense of looking over your shoulder, I think I can still get into the zone,
Mhm.
and I don't try and let that dictate what I put on the page. So if I don't like something, I know I just don't have to show it if I don't want to, right?
Yeah.
But I'm quite
Yeah.
happy to share my journey, my process, and yeah.
How do you choose what you're going to make a video about? I notice on your channel you've got some really wonderful videos about like how to break through barriers, or how to nature journal when you don't know what's interesting, and all these things, and they're so useful. And I wonder how you know what to make a video about.
Yeah, so I use an online tool called Trello, which is just like for me, it's where I keep all my ideas. It's a management tool. And so every time I think of an idea, I write it down, and I try and categorize the ideas and my channel into three topics. So I've got nature journal with me, where I usually want to take you to a place and show something interesting. And I don't necessarily know what I'll journal on the day. I'll just see what I find. So that's
Hmm.
more about the locations. Then I've also got like tips and tutorials, which is, oh, someone's asked me how to do something, or I think that people would like to know more about how to do something. And so I'll try to explain a concept, or brainstorm some different tips and ideas. And then I've also got like a bit more of an art side, where I just try and show my process of doing painting that's a little bit more relaxed and chill, or maybe I'll do a voiceover over the top on a topic.
That's great. That gives your channel a really well-rounded feel, and I think that there really is so many different things that a nature journaler can find on your channel.
Yeah, so I hope that people who do have a look will find something they like.
You created this really elegant Venn diagram to describe your understanding of nature journaling, and it shows nature journaling as the intersection between nature, science, and art. And I'd love to hear about creating this beautiful diagram.
Yeah, thank you. So I was trying to actually figure out what nature journaling meant to me. So I was going through this process where I knew it had to do with drawing and nature, but there's also the scientific aspect to it that I liked. So to my mathematical mind, scientific mind, I've always loved Venn diagrams, and it just worked together quite nicely for me. Um, but that's not to say that it has to have all of those things. It's just got elements of all those things in it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm going to link it in the show notes so that people can see this diagram. It's very, as I said, very elegant to see it visualized like that.
And then also there was a little comment that you actually made when you saw it the first time, that you were like, oh, but what about the heart? Like the heart is also an integral part the of nature journaling, and I agree. And so I think if you just change the shape of that intersection in the middle to a heart, then it's perfect.
Yes, yes. For me, this is such an important thing, and that it would be in the center with nature journaling itself. Perfect. I love
Mm.
it. I also love that on your blog, when you're talking about this definition, you say, and I totally agree that nature journaling is flexible and we can all emphasize the area we want to focus on. So, if it's an artist making beautiful pictures, or if it's a writer using words to capture observations, or a scientist, rigorously studying something, we can emphasize our own area.
Yeah, so I like that it's got that flexibility. And there's some days when I feel more like writing than I do drawing. And the pages of my journal reflect that. So it's no need to have to be restricted to just doing the one style, or always writing in words if that's what you do and that's what you think of yourself. You can explore, you can have different ratios, and I love that.
Yes, and you said also, like, you don't have to box yourself in. You don't have to be the artist on every day. You can be the artist on one day and a scientist on another day, or in fact, all at the same time. I like that.
Yeah, and you can grow and explore in one, or all three as you wish.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I love about nature journaling. It's so flexible in every way. For someone who's doing it themselves at home, you can make it what you want. If for a teacher who's teaching nature journaling, you can mold it for a science lesson, or an art lesson, or an English lesson, or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, and you can cover so many different topics too. Yeah, so it's not, you can go into the science, you can go into the heart, you can go into just the nature. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I just think it's like the best thing. It's like it does everything.
Yes. Yes.
The best tool that does everything.
Yeah.
It's like if we were on an infomercial, and it does this and it does that.
Well, talking about that, it's got these health benefits too. I'm a strong
Okay,
believer
that's
that it does have a lot of benefit, not just for going outside and learning more about the world we live in, but also for being able to reduce or relieve stress. And so I had that a little bit, because of the stress of my work. I actually was seeing a psychologist for my anxiety, and they never prescribed art therapy to me, but I already had that form of relaxation. So they said, yeah, keep up with that. And then going outside, it just combines all these things together. So yeah, it really is perfect.
yeah. So nature journaling as a way to help mental health is huge, and that's obviously been helpful for you, and certainly for me and many others. And I think, yeah, it's beautiful that your psychologist said, yeah, like, lean on that because it's obviously helping.
Yeah, and I think because it has elements of mindfulness, so
Mm.
you learn to slow down. And when you physically slow down to look at something more closely, your heart rate slows, your breathing slows, and that's just that physical change will actually help your thoughts slow down, which is what my issue was with anxiety. And yeah, so very powerful.
Yeah, it's so interesting, this whole sort of mind body thing. There's a lot of talk about mind body, and for me, in my own experience, this is huge because although I had a physical illness, my worries, my anxieties were like spiraling out of control, and using nature journaling and just being with nature, calming down that nervous system response, it allows your body to it allows your body the space to do its own healing,
Mm.
and I think that's a major, major benefit.
Yeah, definitely.
I wonder about your thoughts on this really common issue that lots of people are wrestling with about perfectionism and the desire to make a perfect nature journal page versus, like, letting go and just connecting with nature. Do you struggle with this as well?
Yes, yes. So um, I definitely want to create a pretty picture and, get upset if I make a mistake. So I've got that streak of perfectionism in me. But I've learnt to, in my nature journaling, let it be. So let it be rough, loose, make mistakes, try new things. It's my play area. And then it also helps me practice for when I do want to create those nicer drawings. I'm still learning how to not be scared and make that a little bit more seamless of going from like my nature journal and my sketches where I really do feel like I can do whatever and it's all okay, to when I want to create a little bit nicer art. So it's still a learning curve for me, a process, but I think nature journaling really helps with that.
I love that you said it's my play area. That is just such a beautiful, phrasing, and yes, I 100% agree. It's a place to have fun and to let go, and yeah, I can understand um, this desire to make a pretty picture. I think it's in most, if not all of us, but I really do think the more we do it, the less that matters.
Yeah. And also, in a way, because the nature journaling is not about making a pretty picture, it's more about that connection. It really helps us put aside that worry of making a pretty picture.
Mm-mm. And I wanna say, as an aside, that making a pretty picture can be a way to make a nature connection. And so I would never want to say, no, you shouldn't make pretty pictures in your journal. Of course, if that's something that makes that connection for you, then perfect. And if it doesn't, if it's bringing in more anxiety, then it needs to change. But making a pretty picture in itself is not there's nothing wrong with that. It can be
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. It's only when it's sort of holding you back, when it becomes a block, that,
Yes.
yeah, you might want to address it by relaxing and making it more fun again, more playful. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. When you go outside to nature journal on an adventure, what do you take with you?
Yep. So usually I'll either walk or take my bike to somewhere local, somewhere close by. So I get a bit of exercise in as well. I've got my backpack and my hat and sunnies. So if it's quite dry and hot here, and sometimes I put sunscreen on too because I live in Australia, that's what you got to do. Um, and in my bag, I love to take, I've got two sketchbooks that I use. One's like a big A4 one, white paper, and then I've got a handmade one that's used, has toned paper in it, which I really
Mm.
enjoy. So I like that variety and being able to choose the size, but also the color paper, depending on my mood. And then I tend to just go straight in with a pen, black pen, and then also with my watercolors for adding color. But I like to play around with different tools depending on what I feel like.
Yeah, I love your work on toned paper. I think they pop so beautifully, and I just love looking at them. They're really, really pretty.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of fun too, especially with the white. It just works really cool.
Yeah, I've just contradicted myself and told you that your pages are pretty, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. It adds an extra element, I think. Not in terms of like making a pretty picture, but just it draws me in because it's different, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I find also that, when you start with your page, you might have all these scribbles and sketches everywhere and it might not look like very much. But sometimes all it takes is 10 minutes at the end to just, add a border or do something with the title to make it pop and make it look a little bit more cohesive on the page. So, yeah, but that doesn't mean to say that those scribbles can't stay on the page.
Yeah, yeah. You seem to be really motivated and inspired by committing to different challenges. You've
Hmm.
completed Inktober last year. You created your own challenge, Try Nature Journaling Challenge, and just recently you've finished something called Plan April.
Hmm.
Tell me about challenges and what they bring to you and your nature journal practice.
Yeah, I found that ever since I started doing Inktober a few years ago, it's really helped me in firstly developing a habit. I wanted to try and create that daily art habit, but also to get stuck into one idea and let my skills grow in that. And the idea of the challenge is that it so it pushes you, but it's also got just enough rules and guidelines around it that you don't need to be constantly making decisions about what you're going to do. So with Inktober, I knew that I was going to use a pen because it's with ink. And actually, this last Inktober was the first time I did it for nature journaling in my little toned paper sketchbook. So I just used black, white, and grey pen on this toned paper, which I really love the look of. But I didn't have to worry about color. So that was, one less decision and a lot less time to have to add color in. And I could play around with different line widths and where I would add the white, and then I started with the gray and so on. So I like that aspect of challenges where I feel like I've still got choices, but a lot of that's been done for me, and I can grow and really focus in on just one topic for a limited amount of time.
Yeah, I really love this idea of limiting one aspect so that you can have more freedom in another aspect. So limiting your tools and the media you're using takes away the need to make decisions in that area, and then it brings in more creativity and freedom in what you're expressing on the page.
Yeah. And so that's what I wanted to try and bring in with my Try Nature Journaling Challenge is a way for the people who, to actually just give it a go for 30 days. And so I made a prompt list. So every day you've got just, try and see if you can find that. And you don't have to go in order. You can pick and choose as you like, or it doesn't even have to be daily. It could just be like every weekend for the year. So that was my idea, my aim when I created this challenge, to just try and help people have a few ideas to pick from without having to make all the decisions themselves.
Yeah, I think this can be really valuable having prompts for especially for beginners who might go outside and just sit with a journal and really not know where or how to start. A little prompt can just tip you over into getting going.
Yeah, otherwise it can be so overwhelming.
Yeah. Tell me about Plein April that you've just finished.
Yeah, so I decided I feel like I've not done very much landscapes before, and I had recently bought this set of postcards that are made of watercolor paper, and so I wanted to create a postcard landscape painting every day in April. And plein air means painting in the outdoors. So I had to go find somewhere to paint outdoors every day. And most days I would go for a little walk and around me, but if it was raining, for example, I'd just go up on the balcony and do what the view was. So I love that. I did landscapes, seascapes, skyscapes, and some days I would just focus in on like a little part of a tree if I didn't feel like doing a whole landscape. Yeah, it was really fun.
And this is such a wonderful thing about challenges. When you are finished, even though you've just been taking step by step by step, you have something really big and fun to show for it at the end. So with all your landscape drawings, you took a photo and you're surrounded like a halo with all these beautiful landscapes. I think that's really, really special.
Yeah, it's so satisfying to just have this body of work that you've completed and you can be like, yep, oh, look at this. I've actually physically made something. And yeah,
So you are now selling these postcards on your coffee shop?
yeah, that's right. So if people want an original watercolor postcard from Australia, then they're up for sale. Some have already sold, but yes, there's still plenty left. And I'm hoping to add more to my shop soon, prints and maybe commissions. And yeah, so I'm not holding on to them, even though it's like so satisfying to have them. It's sad to let them go, but at the same time, so nice to know that these will be all around the world, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah, so special. So you have been playing around a little bit with gouache. Can you tell me about the your gouache experiments?
Yeah, so I actually decided one day in April to give this a go. And I really enjoyed the process. I got quite stuck into it. Um, it's it was still a bit hard for me to get used to the idea of going from dark to light.
Yeah, it's
And
opposite, isn't it?
yeah, um, and I enjoyed it, but I struggled. I think I'd need to practice it a little bit more because it dries quite quickly compared to watercolor. So I find that
Mhm.
watercolor is still more portable and accessible for what I want to use it for. But certainly, I think I'd like to see what it looks like on toned paper. And
Yes.
yeah, um, maybe if I can find a way so that it doesn't dry out so quickly and take it out on the road with me, that could work.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's fun. I have been talking for a long time. People who have listened to this podcast for a while will know I'm always saying, "Oh yeah, I'd love to experiment with gouache," and I just I just haven't done it yet. But I do love the effect that it can bring, especially on toned paper.
Yeah, and I think I will give it another shot with like just doing landscapes maybe. Um, I really love what other people have done with gouache in landscapes, so I'll definitely give it another go, and you should too.
So, in nature journaling, we can focus on different aspects of the process, like making observations, asking questions, understanding connections between things, or just sitting with feelings that we have that come up in nature. I wonder if there's one aspect of the process that stands out for you as the most important or the most enjoyable.
Yeah. I think for me, it's definitely got to be that first part of slowing down and observing and just looking. I like that it engages my mind, my thinking, but it also lets me open my heart to what I'm seeing. So that's probably the most important part for me.
Mm, mm. I love that you said that. It opens my heart to what I'm seeing. Yeah, it's so powerful, isn't it? Just being there with some other piece of nature, some other being on this planet.
It's so hard not to form a connection when you do that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me about your nature journaling and whether or not it's changed as you progress.
Yeah. So I recently finished my first nature journaling sketchbook. And
Yes,
I
congratulations.
thank you. And I had a flip through where so the start of the book was just normal sketches, but then you see me get into the nature journaling. And what I've noticed is that I'm still exploring a lot, but I've started, for example, to put my metadata, so the date, time, all that kind of information about the page or the day in like a little corner in a box. I quite like doing that, and
Mhm.
it helps form that consistency and also make it easy to flip through and figure out what was going on. It's actually interesting. I don't know if I dated just normal sketches for a long time until, yeah, just a few years ago. And as soon as I started doing that, it's like, why haven't I done this forever?
Yes.
It makes such a difference to know how you've changed over time. So, and yeah, with nature journaling, there's a lot more information I like to add in that metadata. So it's not just the date, but the weather. And I haven't yet started. I'd like to add what Alex Boone does to his nature journal with the little mood indicators.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely, I think I can still add more to my page. But other than that metadata, it just depends what's happening. So I might start with the title first, or I might do it last. I might do the drawing first. So I don't really think the rest of my nature journaling style has hugely changed, but it might still.
Mm-mm. Do you feel like putting the metadata on the blank page helps you get over that sort of initial block or that initial anxiety of sitting down with a blank page? Does that writing something, anything on the page help you begin?
Certainly getting rid of that blank page fear, yes. But also, I think just to sort of get into the motion, just like starting me up, yeah, just a little bit. And it might just be a title, but usually I don't know what I'm going to do straight away. So the
Mm.
metadata helps with that. And by the time I've done that, I might get distracted and find what I'm going to draw or watch or write about. Yeah.
Yeah. With your titles, I love how you incorporate your subject into the title. So, for example, you did recently a huntsman spider, and the title of your page actually looked like the legs of the huntsman. And I just think that adds this wonderful, whimsical element to it.
Yeah, it's quite fun to do, and I also like to do it as a bit of a practice before I do the actual drawing. So I've also recently done a moth, and it had a really beautiful design. So I tried to do the color, the pattern of its wings in the title, and then that gave me the confidence to actually do it on the moth itself. So yeah, it's a handy tip to use the title as a practice area.
I like that. What have you been investigating in your journal recently?
So with April, I did the landscapes, and then yeah, that moth. So it's actually quite interesting because um, I was I was going to go further afield, but I just took a step out the door, and there was a moth just out in the door frame. And so I took some photos of the moth to because it was I was busy doing something else. I had to just quickly get the photos. And later on, when I looked at the photos, I saw that there were these tiny little eggs that were under the moth. So I had to
Oh.
nature journal that. I had to put it in
Yeah.
my book. And it's now been like a week later, and the eggs have started hatching.
No.
Yes.
What do they look like?
So, and the different stages. So there were like different pockets of eggs on this wall. So there's some at knee height, some at ankle height. The ones on the ground, the lower ones, seem to have hatched first, and they got like all these tiny little black maggots in a way, caterpillars, and um, just like no bigger than a centimeter. So the size of your pinky fingernail, and but they were like the oldest ones. So there's some that where the eggs still have no hatch, but there's a couple of these, and they're even smaller than that. And yeah, so definitely need to add
What?
another page to show the eggs hatching now.
Yeah. So the moth deposited a series of eggs up the wall, is that right?
Yeah, so not quite a full line, but like a patch.
Clusters.
Yeah, a
Whoa.
cluster. And then higher up the wall, another cluster. Yeah.
That's incredible. Also, that is so good in terms of helping people understand that nature and wonders and incredible things can be seen at home
Yeah.
in wherever you are.
One step out the door.
That is so cool. I would love to see the next installment of this moth saga.
Yes. I don't know if I'll make a video of it because I think the moth itself has died now, sadly. It doesn't
Yeah.
seem to be moving and it's on the ground. But definitely in my journal, I'll be adding to that. So on Instagram, you can see the follow-up pages.
Yes. Amazing. I'd love to, I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on the connection between nature journaling and stewardship, how this practice can translate into pro environmental behavior.
Yes, so I do feel like part of me wants to advocate for looking after our planet, our nature, our environment. And I'm trying to include little bits of that in both my videos and also whenever I share a post, if I do a little bit of research about my subject, to share that as well. So I think it's important to, especially as an educator, I want to practice that stewardship. Um, and for example, I found out from Ivea, who I think was a previous person on your
Mm-hmm.
podcast.
Ivea Moore.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and also Jack Laws. They've both started advocating to, on your birthday, do these cleanups. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do it on my birthday, but for Earth Day this year, I went to, there's like a little bit of bushland just on the top of the hill here and the path going through it. So I tidied up part of that area for a few hours, and then I nature journaled afterwards. And
Wow.
that's the start of it. I'd like to keep building on that. So advocating about nature conservation, I think, is quite important for me. But I don't want it to take over. I don't want to be like an activist in a way. I am, but I don't want it to take over, because to me it's still about just spending time in nature.
Yeah, and connecting others with nature because, as we say all the time, when you're connected with something, you want to care for it. And that's
Yes.
what you're doing through your videos, connecting people with what's around them.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Tell me about your hopes and plans for the future of your YouTube channel and this journey of teaching others about nature journaling and especially the Australian natural environment.
Yes, so I definitely have lots of plans. For example, one of the ideas I'd like to do is to walk the Bibbulmun track, which is a 1,000-kilometre track that goes from Perth down to Albany, and Nature Journal document that journey along the way. So there are all these huts that
Wow.
you can camp at. I've done little bits and pieces, but it would be nice to do the whole thing and make that into a journal and share that process.
Wow. Amazing. And you have plans to celebrate and document the floral emblems of the different states?
Yes, not just the flora, but also the fauna, and some states have like a marine emblem as well. So I'd love to be able to travel around all of Australia and try and find these in their natural habitat where possible, and do a bit of research on them, and then share all that, what I've learned in my videos as well. Maybe have, again, a scientific expert in that topic, and yeah, I don't know if it's blowing out of proportion, because I started this idea a while ago and I still haven't actually shown very much for it, even though I've written written a blog post and made a video about it. I also wanted to create like an infographic maybe, but
Mm.
that might just be a little bit too much for now. So just get started. And I'd like to, for example, I mean, who doesn't want to go and swim with the whale sharks? That's the WA marine emblem.
Oh my goodness. There is so much to explore in this country, honestly. I love that that's your focus because it shows others just how wondrous this country is and also encourages them to look at their own significant flora and fauna to celebrate that closer to home if they're in a different country. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited about it too and sharing it. So, yes.
Well, the Bibbulmun track has been on my life list for so many years. I've even got the little guidebooks for the different sections of the walk. It's something I definitely want to do. It's famous. That area is famous for incredible wildflowers, and uh, yeah, I can't wait to see what you do with that idea.
Yeah, and not just the wildflowers too, but for me, the Karri forest, these huge eucalyptus trees down south, and even parts of the coastline down in Albany, just beautiful places that deserve to be documented and explored. And I'd love to join you if you do come down to the west
Yes.
side, and yeah, do it
Do a
together.
section together.
Yeah.
Yes. Kim, thank you so much for joining me. It's amazing to follow along your journey and learn alongside you and just to share and celebrate all this beautiful and important stuff. Thanks for being part of the podcast.
Oh, thanks, Bethan. I mean, I loved what you do with the podcast and hearing about everybody else. So thanks for letting me share about my experiences.
hope you enjoyed this conversation with Kim. I really love her focus on the Australian natural environment. There's so much to see and explore and share here, and so many unique organisms that definitely deserve a little time in the spotlight. I'm excited to see what comes next as Kim plans to do more adventuring across Australia and to nature journal the different state emblems. And maybe one day we'll have the chance to nature journal a section of the Bibbulmun Track together. That would be a dream. Please do take a look at the show notes where you'll find a link to Kim's website and YouTube channel. Her videos are full of information and inspiration. Thank you so much for listening. See you next week.